Hello YouTube and welcome to my channel. If you've been here before, and welcome back. Today we have a project. We're fixing something on the Jeep. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring you in and show you what broke, and then we will get into what's in the box. So what happened is on my winch controller, where your remote plugs in, this here has pulled loose. Oh, this will cooperate, and you can see right here that is no bueno. So a little bit of backstory and why there's black RTV all the ways around it is that I bought this winch probably about 2 years ago now. This had pulled loose, and I developed, the socket had pulled loose, and I had developed a crack in the housing. I was able to repair it with some black RTV silicone, just what you'd use for your diff covers and things like that, and that held up for well over a year. Well, I was respooling my drum, getting all and getting a good coat of white lithium on it to condition and rust proof my winch cable, when this had pulled back loose. So this leads us into what's in the box. So my winch is a Smittybilt XRC 12,000 pound winch. I had contacted Smittybilt through email from their website and talked with the service rep, and I explained to them what had happened. I told them about when I bought it. Well, they emailed me back asking for pictures of what was wrong with it and a proof of purchase from where I had purchased the winch. So I got pictures for it, and I went ahead and screenshot it where I'd bought it, and I sent that to them. Well, then they emailed me back saying that they was shipping out a new box under warranty, and that I should receive it in 5 to 7 business days. So on this XRC winch, and this is on Smittybilt's website, it's a 3-year warranty on the electrical components and a lifetime warranty on your mechanical components. So at no cost to me, Smittybilt went ahead, honored the warranty on this, and they sent me out a whole new control unit. So here be the new unit, everything in the plastic. So what we're going to do today is we are going to switch out this old unit for the new one. So let's get started on this. Okay, to start this, we're going to probably have to pull the winch off the bumper, or at least loosen it up, because even though your mounting point for the housing is easy to get to here on top, you have to change out all your wiring. So I'm going to take and plug my controller in and bump it out. To take my tension off of this so we can move everything. If this is completely kaput, you can always throw your winch into free spool and give the cable a good hard yank, but that will get that done. So now that we have our cable loosened to where we can take the winch and move it as needed, we will disconnect our power at the battery cables. Okay, so if you have the factory Jeep terminals, it should be a 10 mil. So we'll just take it loose. So that's our negative. Pro tip, start your bolt back on so you don't lose it. And then that's our positive. There we go. So now we will take our wires and we will feed these back down and through. That's one. And nope. That's the second one. So we got our cable, our power wires unhooked. So now let's come on down here to the winch. Now there's about 3 different ways to mount the mount this on here. You can do on top, you can do off to the side, and I think there's another mount where this is sideways. I chose here to try to keep my profile low to maximize airflow through the grill into the radiator. I know these probably reduce my airflow a little bit, but since I put these in, that took care of a lot of like tall grass and sticks that would get in here. So these are actually a functional mod in that I've not had any issues with overheating. It allows plenty of airflow, but it keeps all the nasties out. So this looks like an Allen bolt. So we will go get our Allen key set. Okay, so for the bolts that hold my control box onto my mount, it's a 3mm Allen key, and we will get these took off. So once we got them broke loose, we should be able to just flip this around here. So that's my second bolt. There it goes. So I'll set these over here so I don't lose them. So now we have our control box loose. So we may be able to do this without taking the winch loose, so let's try. So try to get you a good shot of it here. You can see right here you have this boot, so we will pull that boot back, and I'm going to go find a wrench because I don't think I can get a socket on that, so I'll be right back. Okay, so a 14mm socket fits on here pretty well. So let's see here if we can get this. Okay, I see what it is now. So there's a okay. So you're gonna need 2 of these, because down here on this underside you can see that it's a double nut setup, so you'll need an open-ended wrench to sit down in this one, so you can put a box in or open in on this nut, so you can counter them to get this loose, because if you don't, you're just going to spin it and tear that grommet up. So let me go find another 14. Okay folks, so not in any way sponsored, but this is a Cobalt pass-through low profile ratchet and socket set. Forget I have these sometimes. I keep this set in the back of the Jeep for those emergency repairs that you hope you never have to make. But it's a universal set, so this is a 14 and 9/16. It fits both, so you only have to carry one set. So something like that's a really nice tool to have. So with that, we're able to get that broke loose. So taking our nut off, just wanting to be careful not to lose anything. We'll set this down here, and then we'll take our lead along with our washer and lock washer off. Now, if you're a weirdo like me and you hang on to all your paperwork, this wouldn't be too much of an issue because you have the wiring diagram. For those of you that don't like to hang on to paperwork indefinitely on the off chance you'll need it 10-15 years later, I'll show you a really easy way of doing this, and that's that as you take one wire off, take your new unit and put that wire on the new unit in the place that you took the old one off from the old. So we'll get our new control box opened up and we'll use that method, because that way when you're, the nice thing about doing it that way is when you get everything hooked together, you're done. So let me get the new one open and we will start getting the new one attached. Okay, so we have our new unit out. So one nice thing is that they flag your wires. So this is D. So we'd take our D, which is our black wire, from our new one. Now, I'll just be honest with you. These boots are a huge pain to deal with. So take your boot, slide it up. We'll get this over here where we can work with it, and we will get our new one on. Then we will slide our washer back over it, lock washer, and we will start the nut back. And again, I'm trying to do this without taking the winch off because it's just 4 bolts, but it's a pain. But if you don't have the space to work on things, then that is completely an option. So get that started down. Now we'll do the exact opposite, or same thing. Take our 14, hold that bottom, and then take, and we will tighten this down. You don't have to Hulk grip it, Superman it, however you like to say it, but make sure that's good and snug. And now this is one of the more difficult parts, is getting the new boot down and over everything, because this is going to help seal that connection, keep dust and dirt out of it. Ideally you want it to come down and completely cover that base section. So it's not wanting to cooperate with me, but I think it's going to be okay. So yeah, that'll work. So now we will move on to our next wire. Which we will do this one next. So doing our red one next, and it's quite literally the same process. Then we take our red. It did come with a boot, it just fell off. So, no boot. Okay, so that's got two of them. Yeah, I'm going to have to take this off. So I'm going to have to take the winch off because I'm not going to be able to get to the two bottom ones. So we will reset and see you in a few. Okay folks, so after a detour to the auto parts store to buy a swivel extension, we are now able to move our winch. We had to get a swivel extension because we was able to get the 3 of the 4 bolts that holds this on, but we couldn't get that 4th one, and we sure as heck didn't want to strip it out. So now that we have this unmounted from the bumper, I can take it and just rotate it. And this is again why we went ahead and ran our winch line out a little bit and created some slack. Probably should have done this to start with, but I was being stubborn and trying to not trying to get away with it if I not doing it if I could. So next we will move on to our yellow one. So let's see. Is this it? Yep. There's that. And then 14. And let me go get my socket, or wrench I should say. We'd kind of just put everything up so we could move the Jeep, so we could get the wife's car out. So, the same procedure. Just a open-ended wrench to hold our bottom one here, and break that loose. So there's that. Then here on the very bottom we have one more spot that has two. that's going to be a 13 mil. So let's see if we can just bring this here. Okay. So take this loose. So now we have our old control box completely loose. And now the old control box is completely removed, along with our old negative lead. The new winch came with a new lead for the negative. So we will take and put our last wire. We'll get this in position. And okay, so we've got our new negative and our ground wire from our box. Well, I'm assuming it's a ground. So yeah, you don't want to do that. You want to try to avoid losing pieces if you can. So, but this will still be okay. We still have our lock washer. So get that lined up. Get that on there. And we will tighten this all down. Now, when you're tightening down your connections, you want to make sure they're good and snug, but you don't want to over tighten, because you don't want to strip out your threads or break a bolt. So just good and snug like that. So now we have everything connected in, everything's wired. So let me slide that over here, and we will roll our winch back around into position. And we will take our Allen key. Okay, so now we've got our winch rotated back in position. We will take our Allen key and we will remove our new mounting nuts. Okay, so we've got our new here, and then we will bring our wires back down here, and we will get our box in position. So these were a little bit of a bugger to get lined up, but once you get them started, it's just a matter of dealing with an Allen head bolt, which are not my favorite, and just getting everything tightened down. And again, you want to snug these, but do not over tighten, or you can strip out threads, break the bolt, all that other unpleasant stuff. So now we have our new control box mounted to our winch, we have it wired up. I'm going to go back down underneath and get the winch itself remounted to the bumper, and then we will come back to finish this up by running our power wires and getting everything connected up. Okay, so just real quick, I didn't show me taking my winch loose. It's fairly straightforward. It's usually just 4 bolts you take loose. And it's the same process, but it's going to be a little different depending on bumper winch combo that you have. Whether you have additional skid plating like I do with the front skid plate. Something that may be useful is probably a lung extension. You may need a shorter one. You may need to combine this with the short one. And I ran into a bit of a issue. I could get to 3 of the 4 bolts to get them loose, but I couldn't get to that 4th one. The two back ones I'm able to get to with just the extension, but the 2 front ones I ended up having to go. I'm gonna put everything up and make a parts run down to the auto parts store to buy a swivel. So if you don't have one of these on hand, maybe call a friend that you know might have one, or go ahead and pick one of these up ahead of time. They will save a whole lot of hassle, because without this piece, I'm looking at a good hour to take the bumper off and another hour to put it back on, just to change the control box on the winch so I can get the winch loose to get to my bottom wires. So handy piece to have. They're a little pricey, but it's a buy it once and you're done, more or less. So I just wanted to throw that in there right quick. Now that we have our winch mounted back, we have our new control box in, it's time to route our wires. So these are our new power and ground wires to the winch. Now I'm going to route these the same way that I had before, but to get to them I've got a trick. Now they make and sell fancy utensils for running wires, wire grabbers. I've got an old coat hanger, just an old metal coat hanger. I cut it, straightened it out, and this works pretty well for running wires, snaking things through. And then just a little bit of tape to help make sure that it stays on to the end. And basically all I'm going to do, which I actually don't even need tape with these, due to them having the lugs on the end, is I'm going to take my coat hanger and I'm just going to insert it down through where I want my wires to run. So you can see right here, and then I'm just going to take my wires, and where I have that hook on my coat hanger, I'm just going to hook my wires onto that. Sorry folks, I'm trying to do this one-handed without the shot being too crazy. So I've got both my wires hooked, so then I can come up top, and then it helps if you can look down the crevice where you're pulling them up, because you may need to manipulate it just a little bit to keep things from getting caught and tangled. So we've got both of our wires here. We'll just let them come back down here, and we will pull our slack out. Okay, so it's easy as that to take and try to run wires and fish wires through. So now we have that. So I'm going to run this wire first, my positive lead. Now right here, you can buy this auto parts store. Fairly cheap. See if I can get a little closer so you can see. Yeah, right here. So this is the same thing that your power wire is wrapped in, but I just took, you can buy this as wire, like corrugated wire wrap or whatever. You can, a lot of people like to use this for homemade wiring harnesses, things like that. Make everything look nice and pretty. I may do that later on with the rest of my wires. But you can also take it, and where it splits, if you have to run wires along like a body seam or something like this, you can put that over it, and what that does is that shields and protects your wires from the sharp seam on the sheet metal. So just a little, oops, wrong way. So just a little tip. So I'm just going to run my negative lead. I'm just going to loop it right back here, and then I'm going to take my nut that I'd put back on the post for safekeeping. We will tighten that down, and again, same principle. You want to make sure it's snug down good, but don't over tighten. While you're here, it's a good time to check your other terminals. Make sure they're all good and snug. Nothing's came loose. So we've got that. I can take my extra and just kind of tuck it in back here like this. Now, to run my negative wire, we will repeat the process. So, coming up, and then I want this to run through here because I'm going and around. Then we will replace our nut on top. And snug everything down good. Okay, so we have this ran now. That, and we'll run that like that. So now we have our power wires back to everything. Okay folks, so after all that, we are practically done with this, and the last thing to do is test the function. So I went ahead, plugged in my controller, so, or slack out, so we'll winch out and winch in. So as you can see, everything is back to, well, worked properly before, but we now have our new control box and everything is working as it should. So we are done with this install. I've done put all my tools up. So a big thank you to Smittybilt for doing an awesome job of honoring their warranty on the parts. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm not paid or sponsored or anything like that. I think I mentioned that at the beginning, but if I didn't, I have now. And I had bought the winch on my own, and when I contacted Smittybilt, you know, I gave them all my information and no additional cost to me. They went ahead, sent me the replacement part, and you know, they covered the shipping and everything on it. So, you know, thank you very much, Smittybilt. I guess that would basically, I'm gonna wrap this up. As you kind of seen, it's a little bit involved. Depending on how things are mounted, how your particular winch is set up, you may or may not have to remove it. I ended up having to unmount my winch for this one, with the way mine's set up, to access the bottom and back side of it. So, if you enjoyed it, a like is appreciated. I do this more as a hobby than anything, so my postings are kind of sporadic. You know, I may do good about posting regularly, and then I may go dark for 6 months. But if you'd like to know when I do post something, feel free to subscribe. That way you can get notifications and all that. I've made a Facebook page for my channel, and I'm trying to post things on there as far as, you know, maybe upcoming projects when a video goes live. Maybe stuff that, you know, didn't make it to YouTube, you know, such as, you know, photographs from, you know, recon trips, things like that. So I'll link that in the description below. So I want to thank y'all for watching, and we'll see y'all next time.